everybody. It is Dean Z speaking to you from my basement in a special follow-on episode to episode 15, in which I talk at great length about all the reasons why, in most cases, you should not be expecting that an admissions office is going to do a super duper close read of your transcript. This episode will probably not make a ton of sense unless you've listened to that episode. So I would suggest you do that. But what I want to do now is do a quick Q&A. The Q's have come from some of you watching the vlog, so thank you very much for that. But there are also questions that I have accumulated just over the years of doing this, frequently asked at recruiting events that I've attended. So let us dive in. The first question I want to address came from Taylor M via email. So thank you very much, Taylor. Taylor asks, do we evaluate trends? By which I think Taylor means, if you start out slow and you get better as you go along, or you start out strong and then you tail off, will we evaluate that? We will notice it because that's something that the Law School Admissions Council makes very easy for us to see because they do a year-by-year breakdown. Unless it's something really dramatic, it's probably not going to be a big factor for us. If it is a downward trend, that will probably raise some issues. And again, dramatic. I'm talking about like you start out at a 4.0 and you move down to a 3.0. I'm not talking about you start at a 3.8 and you move to a 3.7. Like that's nothing. Talking pretty big changes. If it's an upward trend, we will notice that is more common. So it again is not going to make a huge impact. Either case, if you feel like that is an important part of your story, whatever happened to lead to a trend, I would suggest that is something that for which an addendum is worthwhile. Just a few sentences, not like going into a major expose of everything that occurred, but talking, briefly, directly to the point about what led you to go up or down, and just put it out there so lay any concerns to rest. But again, only if it is very dramatic. And I'll say the reason to do that is because even if we notice it, we'll just be speculating about the reasons. And if there is a specific reason that you want us to know, great to get it out there. Next question came from Rachel on YouTube. Thank you, Rachel. She asks, how do you consider students who have a not off the charts Law School Admissions Council GPA, so like the cumulative GPA, I think she means, but a higher GPA from their degree granting school? This is a great question. I mentioned this in the original episode, that if there is a big difference between them, there's a story underlying that you may want to let us know. Rachel gives the specific example of someone who went to school, lacked focus, got some bad grades, took time off, got everything together, went back, and then kicked ass in her final go-round and, got Latin honors and all that. That is definitely worth explaining. Now, that's a story that is, more evident just from looking at the numbers. You can kind of see what happened. But I think it is definitely worth pointing that out in a few sentences and putting a cherry on top, just tying it all together with a bow to really mix my metaphors, and letting us know exactly what happened. Again, don't belabor it, just a few sentences. Everyone loves a redemption story, so that's really great if you can say that. A bunch of pre-law advisors have asked me all summer long, how are you going to treat COVID grades? The last semester that just passed in spring 2020, lots of schools gave optional pass-fail or required pass-fail. Trust me, this is not going to be something that any school is worried about. They're not going to look at that and say, well, if only this person had grades, I might consider admitting them. First of all, most people will be in the exact same position as you. Second of all, we were all there. We all lived through it. We are still living through it. And we are full of sympathy. So this is not anything to worry about. And this is not something that you have to even write an addendum about either, because the Law School Admissions Council very helpfully is going to have in perpetuity a little reminder, explanation of what was going on in spring 2020 and why you're seeing perhaps all pass-fails or a few pass-fails, or if there are grades, maybe the grades were affected negatively by everything that was going on. So great news. Okay, here is a question that I've gotten a lot over the years. It didn't come in connection with the vlog, but I've heard it so many times. At what point should I submit an addendum to explain a bad grade or withdrawal, etc.? If it is one bad grade, one withdrawal, in almost no cases is it worth calling attention to this and explaining anything. It is such a tiny factor in the course of your entire application. It's just not going to be the kind of thing that captures anyone's attention. And if you explain it, it's going to look like, a certain lack of perspective. I suppose if you have some like great 3-sentence explanation for something that, is perhaps is a good story in some way, I don't know, maybe then you could do it. But in general, I would say you're better off not including the addendum for something like that. If, though, there is a pattern, like one semester that you did particularly poorly, or one semester where you did, a lot of withdrawals or something, or if it's a pattern throughout your entire undergraduate record, then yes, that is a very good thing to explain to us. For one caveat, when I'm talking about like a pattern of poor grades, I'm talking about like actually something dramatic. I'm not talking about a B. I'm not talking about B pluses. I'm talking about something, really problematic. So again, have some perspective. Don't worry about, the occasional grade at the median of your, or mean of the school's grading. I'm talking about, something that is really different and reflective of a tough time. Even if the story that you're telling is just, I was immature when I started school. That can be very helpful to point out. Or if the story is, really, whatever your story is, it's fine. You should just share whatever it is. So it could be that you were sick. It could be that someone in your family was sick. It could be that you had a job that took a lot of your time. It could be that you were, caregiving for someone in your family. It could be that you had a not great high school preparation, and when you got to college, it took a while to figure that out, or maybe you never figured it out, right? But now you've got some distance, and now you're ready to go. There has to be a story where it ends with, and now I am ready. So make sure whatever account you give ends on an up note. But all of that is worth explaining, worth putting out there. We're trying to figure out who you are. So including that information is extremely helpful. Here's a question that I get a lot that I always find, I'm not very sure what to make of it, to be really frank. So people will sometimes say, do we look at major GPA, the GPA in your major versus the overall GPA? And, when I ask follow-up questions, I get the impression that it's people who've done well in their major and not in their other classes. And are we going to give them like bonus points for that? And first of all, the answer is no. Like the amount of math that I would have to do to figure out that your grades were better in your major versus not is a lot, and I won't be doing that. But even if you point it out to me, you tell me, like sometimes people will say degree, GPA in major, blah, blah, blah. I guess that doesn't really tell me. I'm not sure what you want me to know from that. Like, are you trying to say like, I liked my major and I didn't like any other classes, and if I don't like a class, I don't do well in it? Or are you trying to say, I have like a very thin band of expertise and it was just in my major? I don't know. I'm just not clear what you're trying to say with that. And therefore, my feeling is not worth pointing out. If I have missed something, though, if there is a compelling story that I have not yet understood, then I take it all back, explain it in an addendum. But think carefully, like, what is it? What message do you really want us to get from this pattern that you're trying to point out? Okay, here's a question that comes up all the time in admissions, and there's a little apocryphal story I want to tell. The question is, should I concentrate on getting high grades, or should I go for challenging courses? And the apocryphal story, I think it's apocryphal, is from a dean of admissions at a fancy undergrad college who, when he is asked this question by a parent, he just says, yes, meaning like you should take hard classes and you should get good grades, which is rude, but I think it's funny, which tells you something perhaps not flattering about my sense of humor. Okay, anyway, I'm not going to pretend the GPA is not important in the decision making. It is. So you need to be thinking about, like, how bad am I going to do in this class? But it might be worth it anyway, right? Like, you're in college to get an education. I think it is a very good general piece of advice to say, don't take classes purely for the grades when you're in college. Like, you're only in college once. So, take what you're interested in. Almost towards the end here. Here's a question. Can I make up for a lower GPA in college with a great graduate school record? Not really. So on the one hand, impressive that you're in graduate school shows us you can perform at a high level. We'll take that into account. But it's not like that GPA is going to undo the GPA you had in college. That's the one that we have to use for calculating our medians. And plus, I just don't have a lot of information about the grading patterns in graduate school. So I know there are some graduate programs where the modal grade is an A. So then if you get an A in that program, you've only gotten the grade that most people got. And I don't know how to distinguish between those programs. There are certainly programs where that is not the case, but I just don't have a lot of information about it. So the fact of the graduate work tells me something significant and important, but your particular grades are not going to be a big consideration in the process. Here's one that came up recently that I love because I feel so strongly about it. This person says, like, I only need 3 classes for my last semester. I just want to take 3 classes and I want to do other things. Is this going to ruin me for getting into law school? And the reason I love it is because I think a lot of the advice that this person got when they came to me was, yeah, don't do that. Your schools will find that really problematic. No, they won't. No, they won't. Take the 3 classes. Have a nice last semester. You'll be fine. Some schools, 3 classes is the normal amount. We're not going to be looking that closely. So it's fine. But just do something good with your time because life is short and blah, blah, blah. This is the last question. What if my major or the school that I'm in at this undergraduate university has a much stricter GPA than most of the majors or classes, or majors or schools at this university? You'll see, admissions office will see the overall GPA from Law School Admissions Council, and what I went through was much harder. That is useful information for us. Ask a letter of rec writer to tell us. If you tell us, I'm not going to have a lot of confidence that you actually know. Sometimes there are mythologies about this kind of thing in schools, but your letter of rec writer will probably know. That person is the right message bearer for that. Okay, so once again, bottom line, don't count on schools doing a super close read of your transcript. If there are messages you want us to have, though, that is great. You are in control of that. Give us an addendum. Let us know what you hope we are thinking if we were doing a super close read, and you are the author of that message. All right? Thank you for listening, because this is a special bonus episode. I do not have any grammar tips. If you have other questions, though, you'd like me to address regarding transcripts and GPAs and addendums, or addenda, actually, sorry, send them in. Would love to answer them. Do another one of these episodes. All right. Thank you. Thanks to Dustin for making this all happen. Wherever you go, go blue.